Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience and welcome to this very first workshop on this topic of acing the PhD application process and the SPH Office of Career Services. I am Tina Lynn and I am your CUNY SPH Career Coach. We are so thrilled that Professor Sasha Fleary is here to give you this presentation on what seems like a really hot topic today. And just in general for our students. So we're absolutely delighted that you're all spending your lunch hour with us. I'm also joined by my colleague Taylor Dross, who is also an SPH alumna, and she is the CSA, the Career Skills Academy Program Manager. Hi, Taylor. And
Hi,
so
everyone.
we just want to, as we get started here, just let everybody know that today's event is being recorded. Sasha, next slide. For your benefit, if in case like any disconnection happens or you need to pop off, that this is available for you afterwards. Next slide. And as always, that this is an interactive workshop. And so if possible, to have your video camera on when you're speaking with or addressing other folks, that would be great. But we also know that our students are dialing in from work or wherever, but just let us know and utilize the chat as much as you can. And when speaking, that you can either take space or make space. And as always, just our tone, we really value that inclusive environment and setting up a culture that is engaging everyone. Next slide. And just so you know, we've gotten a lot of questions on this topic. So as you can see, there's things that we will address during this session, and we actually have a follow-up session as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this time over to Dr. Fleary. Take it away.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for signing up for this workshop. I'm really excited that you all are in different phases of considering a PhD. This is what we want to see. We want to see our students, those who want to continue their career, find ways to do so, and we want to be able to support that in any way possible. If you haven't met me before, I am Dr. Sasha Fleary. I am an associate professor in the Community Health and Social Sciences Department, and I am a licensed psychologist as well. So without further ado, let's start. Tina, we're going to start off by just launching a poll to just get a temperature of where people are in their doctoral degree interest level, application or application process. Oh, wow. So we have most people are still just thinking about it. That's actually really good because we're able to give you some tools from the start of your journey. We have some people applying now. And hopefully we can give you some nuggets that's going to help you along the way. And if you have some schools in mind, we're going to talk a little bit today about how to kind of figure out where you want to go and what should be on your short list or not. So I think we could move on. Thank you for your responses. This is really helpful. It actually will help us figure out how to plan future events as well. So thank you. All right. Wait, what is happening? What should I do here, Tina? Okay. So I will tell you a little bit about me. I'm a first-gen student. I'm a first-generation migrant. I actually went to City College of New York for undergrad. I chose City College because they had a dual BA MA program. in psychology so I could get my master's on my way to my bachelor's. Well, my bachelor's on my way to my master's. And I soon realized that I wanted to do a PhD, and I kind of always knew that because I really love research. And I went to Texas A&M for graduate school, and we don't have time to go really in depth into my journey to why Texas A&M. But it started off really with weighing some of the pros and cons of really weighing the cons of the getting a doctoral degree and what would ease the cons for me. So we can have this as another conversation some other time. But yes, my journey is really City College to Texas A&M, and I didn't take a gap. I went to Texas A&M for clinical psychology, a PhD in clinical psychology, and I didn't take a gap after City College of New York, where I did my bachelor's. So anyway, talking about weighing the cons, I think it's really important for as you're trying to think about whether or not you want to pursue a PhD or any doctoral degree, to think about some of the pros and cons in general of getting such a degree. There are going to be, these lists are actually longer if we start thinking about specific like fields and like your family situation. It might just be, it might change a little bit. But in general, in terms of the pros of getting a PhD, people think a doctoral degree, people think about gaining expertise in their field. So when you think about the bachelor's level, the master's level, and the PhD level, the bachelor's level gives you breadth. It gives you kind of like an overview of this topic you're really interested in. A master's level gives you a little bit of depth about this topic you're interested in. And a PhD is where you really get expertise and this topic you're interested in, as well as these skills for you to add to the expertise in this topic that you're interested in. It's also a good opportunity to build your research, practice, and/or clinical skills. And it depends on the field and your choice of topic. The doctorate will fine-tune some skills, you might have a lot of research skills already. It will fine-tune that to give you more. If you're like me and you're thinking about a clinical psychology degree, a doctorate will allow you to have like this dual career of research as well as clinical/practice. A doctorate can also, even in the public health sphere, you could be a practitioner. It wouldn't be in the same license and a regulated way as a clinical psychologist, but you can be a practitioner with a doctorate in public health or a PhD. So the other thing that is really an advantage of getting a doctoral degree is the opportunities for networking, the opportunities for being mentored and being able to collaborate with people who might be experts in your field, to learn from them, to have your ideas evolve as you engage with them, to build up your network for when you seek that next employment, that you have people who know who you are and can speak for you, can be your cheerleader out there. And that goes hand in hand with the other point, which is improving your career prospects. So you might be some people use a PhD to advance in their current job, while others are seeking a new position, and they may require a PhD to do so, or the nature of what they want to do requires a PhD or some type of doctoral degree. And I'm going to say doctoral degree and PhD interchangeably, but I really mean doctoral degree. And then lastly, to improve earning potential. So some people expect to earn more with a PhD. Of course, this is tricky. It depends on your field. But there are many fields where you can, the earning potential grows up exponentially when you have a doctoral degree. That being said, it's not all roses with getting a doctoral degree. It's really hard. There's a lot of things to consider. So the time and financial commitment, even if you get a scholarship, there's a large financial cost due to your loss of or a reduction in earnings while you're pursuing your PhD. I know for me, like I was watching my friends already making money and I was still always that broke friend. But it's for a short period of time. It's also getting a doctoral degree is also, I just said a short period of time, but it's also a long-term commitment. And we're not talking about 2 years, which is your master's, or 4 years, which is your undergrad. 4 years is probably the minimum. And that's if you're planning to go to school full-time. If you're going to do a partial doctoral degree program, it's going to take you much longer than that. And then also, unlike your bachelor's, where you had to take courses and you get through your courses, and once you're done with your courses, you're done with and you pass all your courses, you're done with your degree. The doctoral degree requires a lot of self-discipline. And so it might look like 4 or 5 years on paper, but if you can't maintain a level of productivity to get your dissertation done, that's where your time starts to stretch. And that's where I see a lot of students have like a really like a moment where they're like, I don't know if I want to do this, when they're almost at the finish line, because it's such the dissertation piece, which we're not going to go too much into, is such a personal journey and requires so much I would say diligence and high like time management skills, that you have to be willing to commit this time to it. And you're here for, it's a long period of time, basically, in the grand scheme of like what your education has looked like across the years. In terms of and I said scholarships, finances, financial commitment, you can get scholarships, and then but it's lost earnings. But it's also these scholarships or fellowships may not cover your full tuition, so you still might end up in some debt. And you have to think about whether or not you have to weigh the pros and cons of adding to your debt if you have debt already. The other thing I have on here is work-life balance, and I have an asterisk by this because I believe that you can strike some sort of balance. It takes figuring out, like reprioritizing what your life is like, and what takes precedence in your life, and being okay to drop some things that were priorities before, so that you can pick up new priorities that pertain to your doctoral education. And then you also have to be really diligent about how you use your time. But work-life balance in general, until you figure that out, does suffer for people, because you do feel like you're working. And you do feel like you're having to give up a lot of your time with friends and family to be able to meet the demands of like your doctoral program. And then very much related to the other one, which is the intense study and high expectations, can really result in pressure and stress. There's no getting around this. You're building expertise and skills at the same time. You will be venturing into a lot of unknown territories in terms of topic, in terms of ways to do writing, in terms of methods and data analysis. And so if you're high achiever and don't like to fail, type A type of personality, it's really hard on your psyche to be doing all these new things at once, because psychologically you're expecting to succeed at all these things at once. And so that first grade that is not what you're used to getting, or the multiple grades that what you're not used to getting, or the feedback that you're getting from your advisors that are saying, oh, you need to improve on X, Y, and Z, could take a toll on you. So there's a lot of, if you don't have a strong support system, this is like even a lot worse, because a PhD, doing a doctoral degree, can be somewhat isolating, because a lot of people around you don't understand the amount of work that you're taking on. So it's an intense study. It's like high expectations of you on yourself, probably high expectations of others on you. Oh, they're here, you're going to do this PhD, they're expecting you to come out with this, and you may start and realize it may not be for you. So it's a lot. And then lastly, overqualification. So this is really for like if you end up going the non-academic route after your PhD, because you have foregone work time, you would have you may report to people who have less, you see it has less educational qualifications, or something like that. So what I would like you to do is to just tell us what are the top 2 things you are most worried about? All right, so it seems like most people are the time and financial commitment and the work-life balance. In terms of work-life balance and time as in being able to manage time, not time as in the length of time out of school, there's a lot of strategies that you can start adapting now. Our school actually has this access to the National Center for Faculty Diversity and Development that has a lot of work webinars around balance, work-life balance, and time management for doctoral students. You have access to it now because you have a SPH email account, and I would highly suggest using it. But this is also something we could talk more about in future workshops. Sorry, I meant to share results. Okay. So just talked about the pros and cons, but now I want you to think about, why do you want to complete a doctoral degree? And what I have listed here is just a few reasons people might say. So passion for learning a specific topic. They want to deepen their understanding about something that they're really passionate about, and you can see themselves investing time in and making a career of. Increase knowledge and gain skills. Maybe you want to increase your research skills, or you want to be better to better serve your community, and you believe that a PhD will give you the skills to do so. The other thing is career goals. So like I mentioned before, when you're talking about pros, you may be already in a job and need a doctoral degree for promotion. The job you want requires a doctoral degree. You want to fulfill your academic potential. And then the increase your earning potential, so financial stability, seeing this as an opportunity to increase financial stability. For some people, it's familial pressures. Is that the expectation that you go to the highest academic, reach your highest academic potential, or get some type of a doctoral degree? So what is your why? Why do you want to complete a degree? Okay, so most people here, it's about career goals, increasing knowledge and gaining skills, and passion for learning a specific topic. So you're invested in a career in this topic, it seems like, and getting the skills to do so. And I think that's awesome. What you need to consider is, can you achieve your why without a doctoral degree? And I will go into that a little bit more. Yeah. I don't know why this blue box insists on being there first, but we'll let it be. So as you're thinking about this why, and you just highlighted, like thought through your top 2 reasons that came to the top of your head of why you want to do a doctoral degree, I want you to think about, are you genuinely passionate about the topic? So can you see yourself studying this topic with intensity for the next 5 years to 10 years, hopefully 5 years, and then having a career in this topic? Are there other things that you're interested in? One of the questions someone asked was like, how do you choose a topic? It has to be something that you're not going to be nauseated by in 5 years. And sometimes it means combining more than one topic. The other thing you want to ask yourself is, am I genuinely passionate about research? Because if you're going to pursue a PhD in particular, you are going to have to do research. You can't get around doing research. It is what it is. And research requires a lot of solo work, but also a lot of group work. And you are likely going to learn a lot of new skills. And sometimes it can be monotonous and tedious, especially when you get to the dissertation phase and things might not necessarily work out how you want it to work. So do you genuinely love research? Are you genuinely passionate about answering research questions? I'm not asking you if you have the skills to do research, because those skills are going to come in your doctoral program. But are you curious enough and wanting to figure out how to answer the questions you have? Are you ready for the financial costs? So the loss in income, making time, the possible cost of having to pay for your degree. And there's also some costs related, some social and familial costs. So what does your lifestyle look like now? And do you have time in your lifestyle right now for a PhD? So to dedicate 10 to 20 hours in about 15 hours in coursework, because you do a lot of reading, but then also even more time in also conducting research, or doing some type of research. Do you have space in your life right now for that? Are you willing to give up some of your social events to do some of this? The other thing is, do you really need a doctoral degree to do what you want to do? And lastly, if you do a degree, are there going to be regrets? If you don't do a degree, are there going to be regrets? And which of the regrets can you live with? What would you do if you didn't do a PhD? What would you be happy doing? So this decision is like, really, to me, I think it's a very personal decision that as an advisor and a mentor, I can't make for a student, but I can help them talk through. But it just takes a lot of reflection of like, what you're willing to do on this journey. And the thing about it is, it's like some of these things on here are temporary things, right? The financial costs can be temporary. You just have to be very strategic of where you choose to go to school. That's a big deal, because the financial cost can be exponential if you go to a school that is not going to cover your tuition and then also has really high tuition. The social event stuff, I think with time, you can figure out how to balance your life, but you can't add something without taking something else out. So the balance, you have to figure out what's the shift in the balance. Are you willing to give up some things to achieve this? And again, that's temporary, right? If you give up a lot at the beginning, in 4 or 5 years, you're out. But your lifestyle might not be conducive to you giving up a lot right now. So there's a lot to think about. And then really importantly, are you going to have regrets either way? Or which regrets are going to be the worst for you? So that being said, what do you want to do? What is your topic of interest, right? What is your focus? If you choose your topic of interest is this thing that you're passionate about, your focus is from what perspective are you passionate about it? Are you passionate about it from more of a surveillance perspective? Are you passionate about it from a policy perspective? From a let me design some interventions perspective? From like a psychological perspective? Where does your passion lie around this really important topic to you? It could be a combination of these things. And all of these things, the topics, the focus, the use of your degree will determine the type of doctoral degree you want to pursue and where you want to pursue it, and for whom and with whom you would want you would want mentorship. I have a few things listed here for the use of your degree. So for research, to continue to do research, it doesn't have to be an academic setting. It could be like another research setting. Teaching, doing what I do right now. Practice, so being a public health practitioner, being a clinical psychologist, and developing and directing programs, being an entrepreneur. What do you plan on using your degree for within this specific topic? Right, so mostly research and practice, and you can do a combination of these things, obviously, but the thing that you feel most drawn to should drive the degree you choose, basically. And what do I mean by the degree? There are many different types of doctoral degrees. There's a Doctor of Public Health. This is a public health practice at a leadership level degree. So if you envision yourself working at the Department of Health, any Department of Health, this might be the degree you want to pursue. There's a PhD. This is a research-oriented degree. And again, the focus is on deep understanding of a specific research area. I throw in PsyD because some people might want to do, you're doing an MPH, but you might want to do this from a psychological perspective and be like a health psychologist, or yeah, and that this PsyD is a psychology degree for those who are interested in like counseling or like school psychology, or if you want to research. But if you want a research intensive psychology degree, this would not be it. It would be a PhD. And that's the difference. I mean, anyone who's interested, who's going the psychology route, we can talk one-on-one about counseling versus clinical, PsyD versus PhD. And then obviously, MD is a clinician. If you want to have a research career and be a practicing clinician, then you most likely will need like an additional degree to build your research skills. But obviously you're already in that place. If you're thinking that you're going to go the MD route and you're currently in a MPH program and you want that dual career, your MPH is going to give you the skills for that, to have that dual career. If you look at a lot of the medical schools and research active, kind of public health research active faculty, you will see that they have an MD and MPH. Other kind of more basic science type of research faculty in medical schools, you'll see they have maybe an MS and an MD. And that's because they always have to get additional training to get those research skills, because they don't get that in their medical school program. They don't get it to the extent that they need it to be a successful researcher. And then Doctor of Science is very similar to a PhD. Of course, there's an intense research focus. The other really important thing you have to ask yourself is, where do you want to do your degree? What type of department? So that goes back to your focus, right? Whether for this specific thing that you're interested in, what perspective do you want to look at it from? So like in our school, obviously, we have community health and health policy. So you're able to combine two perspectives to look at it from. You might want to look at it from an epidemiological perspective, from bias, so it all depends on the perspective you take and finding a program that's going to match a department that's, well, mostly a program, I shouldn't say a department, but a program that's going to match those perspectives. And I think it's really important. Geographic location seems like one little thing to check off the box, but geographic location is a little bit complex, because it's not just about your willingness to move. You have to think about your willingness to take on financial burden. So for me, I went to Texas A&M because as much as I wanted to stay in New York City, the schools in New York City were not providing any type of, or any substantial tuition remission and graduate stipend for like the program that what I wanted for myself, and definitely not guaranteeing year-to-year funding. And so I started to look outside of New York. And I mean, I could have done that. I didn't have kids at the time. And I also was like ready for an adventure. And Texas A&M, not only did they provide me with like a fellowship that came with full tuition remission and stipend, I could actually live by myself on the stipend, and live somewhat comfortably because the cost of living was really low there. So like, to me, it was really important not to go into too much debt while pursuing my PhD. And expanding my geographic location gave me that option to just have my must-have be a tuition remission plus some sort of stipend, plus being in a area where the cost of living is equivalent to what my stipend is going to be. The other thing is the topic of focus and access to populations should play into your geographic location. So that being said, if I was specifically interested in the experiences of urban youth, Texas A&M wouldn't have been a good fit, because it's a small college town really in the middle of Texas. And so I wouldn't be able to access those populations. I also would probably not find faculty to mentor me in that, because why would they be in a small college town when they focuses on urban youth? So there's a lot to consider when you're deciding on geographic location. So now that you've answered, or at least considered those questions and some reflection for yourself, this is kind of why you're here. Like, where do you start? There's a good portion of you are just considering it and haven't started it. And we have some of you who have started. So the talking to advisors and current or past doctoral students is really important to get a sense of what they like about programs, what they don't like, what you should be looking out for, the type of programs. The advisors might be able to help you think about what type of programs makes the most sense for you. And then make a list of your must-haves and your deal breakers. What are the things you must have? I just mentioned a couple of my must-haves on the last slide and my deal breakers. I was not going to go somewhere where I couldn't afford to live by myself. And then start with, I believe in spreadsheets. And I believe in spreadsheets because you waste you preserve so much time by using the spreadsheet the first time to document your research, everything that you found out about the program. And documenting things that spreadsheet helps you document things in a systematic way so that you can actually compare the information from school to school. And create a spreadsheet to evaluate the schools, and you organize the information by your must-have, your deal breakers, deadlines, location, tuition, opportunities for tuition, remission, and scholarships, all of that. And who did you see that you want to work with? Any communication you have with the school. I also really highly recommend that you create a folder and subfolders for each school and put any communications you had. Even if it was a phone call, you put a Zoom meeting, you write some notes about those communications. It's also going to come in handy when you have to write your personal statement and tailor in the personal statement to the school, or when you're trying to figure out like, wait, why did I take that school off my list again? It will give you that, you'll have all that record. You think you will remember, but you probably won't. So the feel safe way is to make sure you document it. So I think there's a poll. Wait, what happened here? Do we have a poll, Tina?
I think this one was just dropped in the chat for this one.
Ah, okay, all right, okay. So I said like put a spreadsheet together, but then what? How do you what do you put on the spreadsheet? Where do you start with schools? If you go in, use the appropriate accredited school list to find schools to add to your spreadsheet. If you're looking for public health programs, CEF has a list of accredited schools. If you're looking for psychology programs, there's also a list of accredited schools. If you're looking for MD programs, look for the programs that will have, if you're interested in tropical medicine, you look for whatever the list is for tropical medicine or whatever. If there isn't an accredited accredited school list, like if the topic you're interested in or the subject you're interested in doesn't come with accreditation, the next thing to look at is like the major organizations. So let's say you're interested in sociology, you want to do a PhD in sociology, look at the American Sociological Association. They more than likely will have a list of schools that has a PhD in sociology. And that's your baseline. It's whoever has gathered the information of the list of schools. You're not going to go through every single school in the US or in the geographic location. You start by figuring out where there's a list for those the schools of in the topic area that you're interested in. And some tips are, you start with the schools that meet your geographic location, search schools' website to make sure they offer the doctoral degree you're interested in. So it goes back to this focus thing we talked about, and has faculty with overlapping or similar interests with you. And then if the school is an absolute deal breaker, do not put it on your list. But what I would say is sometimes it's helpful to create a second list and make a note about why the school didn't make your list. Again, it comes back to like, okay, I really want to stay in New York City, so why is Columbia not on my list? That list is going to remind you really of why Columbia got taken off your list, rather than you going back to Columbia and trying to search to see like, did you just miss it, or is there a reason it wasn't on your list? I'm gonna stop. Let's see. Stop sharing my screen for a second so that I can just show you an example of a spreadsheet, and we could possibly put this in the materials. There we go. So are you seeing my spreadsheet? Tina, you see my spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this is just like a mock-up I did of a spreadsheet. So like the school, location, program, deadline, tuition, whether they have remission, fellowships, their graduation rate, cohort size, even like I'm picking American Sociological Association. I'm not sure if they actually have this, but they may also have a list of like that is as detailed to tell you like what's the graduation rate from year to year, the cohort size, and graduation rate. You're trying to see like how many people drop off versus how many people graduate, but you're also trying to see like the length of time to graduation. that I know when I was applying to schools, that factored in. When the average time to graduation was 7 years, I was like, yeah, that's not for me. So if you're interested in part-time, if you think you still need to work full-time because you want to minimize the financial burden of graduate school, then making sure, like, looking to see if there are part-time options. So we'll send this list around. The next slide I'm going to show you is about just the short list, and the short list is just a list you extract from that long list to say, all right, these are the schools I think I want to pursue first. And then you start thinking about like the application requirements and all of that. And then when you get to putting together your application, and we'll talk some more about this at another time, then tracking the pieces that goes into the application and making sure that you get those things together and sent out at the most appropriate time. Let's see. Let me see if I can do this from here. Are you seeing my slides again?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So for the short list, of the schools that meet your broad must-haves, where would you like to go? Is there someone there to work with who's accepting applicants? It doesn't make sense applying if they're not accepting applicants. And do you meet the school's minimum requirements? My caveat for that is, even if you don't meet the school's minimum requirements, do not count the school out totally yet. Try to get in contact with someone and plead your case, right? If they're like very rigid about what their rules are, don't bother applying. But if they say, oh, okay, your GPA is kind of low, but you have all this work experience and these research experience, still apply, then apply. So as much as possible, and that's why it really pays to start early, try to get as much information, try to be able to reach out to the schools as early as possible so you can have all these questions answered. So the next piece I want to say is get competitive. And what is competitive? High GPA and examination scores. And by examination scores, I'm talking about GREs. They're looking at your bachelor's degrees. They're going to look at your master's degrees as well, GPA as well. Some of that you may not be able to change at this point, but you may be able to change everything else in your application. So don't dwell on the things that you have no control over, but definitely pour your energy into the things that you have control over. You have control over your personal statement. You have control over your letters of recommendation. And then you have control over, to some extent, your research and or work experience. And so for your personal statement, a strong personal statement has to tailor the statement to the program for which you are applying. You are going to start off with a draft that is more of a generic statement of the big things, your big picture things that you want to see. Do you want to say about yourself? But for people reviewing your application, is a very big red flag when you don't mention the school, you don't mention the faculty you want to work with, you don't say anything specific about the school that really draws you to them, the program, how you are a good fit, how the school is a good fit for you. If I'm reading an application, I don't see any of that, I figured I might be a backup school because you didn't take the time to tell me why you needed to come here. So emphasize why a doctorate degree in this topic is really important to you. Why is this school, this program, the faculty a good fit for you? And then you a good fit for it. What drew you to the program? Look at the school's mission statement. See whether that aligns with your values. Look at the work faculty is doing. Research, look at the kind of papers they're producing. Make sure that it makes sense for what you want to do and speak to it in your personal statement. What are your future aspirations? Where do you see yourself in 5 and 10 years after you graduate? Don't pretend like there are no red flags when there are red flags. So if you have a low GPA or you're on academic probation at some point, you don't have to do not make your personal statement only about that, but you should address it in some way and show how you've overcome that. And then talk about how prior experiences, so your academic research, practical work shaped your interests and passions for the topic and career goals. And these prior experiences, I listed some, but we're talking about anything. It could be people, it could be events, challenges, achievements, anything that aided your growth and add to your fitness for the program, for the topic you want to study, for the faculty you want to work with. Tie everything together. In terms of strong letters of recommendation, make sure your letter writer knows you. Try to get letters from your recent past, but if possible, include an academic letter. So if you've been away from school, I know we have some alumni here. If you've been away from school for a little while, still try to get an academic letter, maybe as like a fourth letter if they would allow it, if you want to give 3 letters from work. But someone should be able to speak to your academic potential. You want letters that will speak to your strengths and potential to successfully complete a doctorate and your aspirations and for complete a doctorate. What does that mean? It means that you need to make sure your letter writers know why you want to do a doctorate and what you want to do with that doctorate. They have to be able, I usually give my students a form to fill out where I ask them these questions, and I use those questions when I'm writing their letter. And sometimes they phone it in. I'm like, I'm writing you a letter and you're phoning in when the responses to the questions I give you. And then sometimes they write it so detailed, I take quotes from the form they fill out and say, when asked about such and such and such, this was their response. So that, and to me, that allows me to write a stronger letter for you. Some tips. Ask early, and if they say no, move on. I'll show a timeline pretty soon. It's really important. If someone declines to write a letter, it doesn't matter why they decline to write a letter. Move on. You don't want a letter that is done under duress, right? You're not entitled to a letter from anyone. And you don't want a letter from someone. I know if someone asks me to write a letter, my policy is I will only write letters for people for whom I can write strong letters. I'm not going to waste your time by giving and affect your career by giving you a letter that's not strong. And I'm not going to waste my time to write a letter that's not going to advance you where you want to be. So when someone says no, move on. If someone's overworked and they say no, if they still end up writing the letter because you kind of beg them to, it's not going to be, it's probably not going to be a bad letter, but it's going to be maybe a brief letter. And that can be interpreted in many ways. So really important point. Share your personal statement and resume or CV with them. So this means you have to start that personal statement piece early. And then, like I said, schedule a meeting to discuss your application and waive your rights to review recommendation letters. Waiving your rights signals to that there's a high level of trust and that the referee can be candid. We can't really talk much about this because I'm watching time here. But the next time we meet, we'll talk some more about finding research or work experience. But really and truly, you have to start immediately. It means you have SPH as your network, use it, reach out to faculty. You have your faculty and career advisors. They can help you figure out who might be good at SPH, who might be good outside of SPH. Remember, everyone's network is bigger than the school. Look at the school's website, look at the description of faculty's work to find some examples, centers and institutes. And do not limit yourself to your department or your program. And also consider other CUNY entities. And of course, Tina is going to talk about career services. I have a sample timeline application for an application because someone asked about it, but I'm not, you're gonna have access to this. I'm not gonna be able to go into it, but again, just really starting early is the big take home. And research is not on here. It should start before this. All right, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sasha. And let me just share my screen. And for all of you that are here, if you can log into your Handshake accounts, that is going to be really helpful for our time together, just as I go through some of these resources. Oops, let's see. Let me just share my screen. Here we go. Let me know if you see my screen. I'm going to drop in the chat. Just very important to all our time here. You log into Handshake. Just that Handshake is the platform that we utilize that the career services utilizes to provide information to you and for you to share information with us. And so all the things that Professor Fleary has shared about kind of those reflections, knowing your why, preparing that personal statement, those are all things that I've all topics that are addressed in career coaching appointments. So I'd invite all of you to just start scheduling something, plan ahead and plan early. Just grab an appointment. If it's, several weeks out, then let us know and we can put you on a wait list for earlier appointments. But get onto Handshake and book an appointment early so that we can have these conversations on exploring, on setting up that tracker, getting organized, preparing your materials, and even connecting with others. And especially like once you get into the interviewing stage. There's several resources that the Career Center has to support every step of the process. One of my favorite things about SPH is that the Dean's Office pays for the student membership to APHA. And with that student membership are a lot of bells and whistles. I mean, there is a big interview platform, which is so useful. I'd be happy to do a demo for that if that's something that you haven't seen before. There's also a way to find a mentor. Start connecting with other professionals in the field and learning from them. And so these are just a few of my favorite resources, along with other resources that are available. Like there are assessment tools, whether it's in public health careers assessment, which we'll be covering in another workshop later on this semester. So stay tuned for that. CSTE, these industry professional organizations such as APHA, CSTE is another one. They actually have an applied epidemiology competency toolkit, right? And that talks about specific tools or skill sets for epidemiologists. So if epi is your thing, that would be interesting to look at. Imagine PhD is another great resource that has exploration and assessment tools, as well as a way for you to track your research. And our CUNY SPH Handshake resource library, there are tons of videos, and the video of this event will be put on there. So getting into the resource library and poking around in there for stuff, as well as like our career resources page. There's a tip sheet on everything under the sun. Maybe it could be a little bit of a scavenger hunt to find it, but tons of stuff in there as well. And just building your community, getting to know, as you're exploring those research topics, right? Connecting with the CUNY SPH centers and institutes. There's like nearly a dozen of them. And so getting to know your campus. We also have Harlem Health Initiatives that does a lot of work, and even more broadly, CUNY centers and institutes. And so this is just a couple of ways to kind of get started in building your tribe, in building your village, and building your team, right? Because Professor Fleary, myself, your faculty advisor, your SPH community is here to support you through this, but it's up to you to get everybody and all the players on your team and leading us to help you help. It's kind of like helping us to help you. And so we want to leave like a few minutes. I know we started a few minutes late, but we'll stay on if there are further questions. And would really appreciate, again, if you all share your feedback in the survey and just like keep in touch with us about and stay connected and keep these conversations going. And so I want to turn this time back to Professor Fleary and also to all of you as a time for you to ask questions in the chat or speak aloud.
Yeah, I answered some questions in the chat already. There's a question about the resource for time management, so I put that in there. So look in the chat if you're interested in that. There's a question about a rating example. And then a question about the best way to find out if a faculty member is accepting applicants. The one thing I would say about that is it's very tricky because you're asking someone now to tell you if they will have money in a year plus from now. And so you might get a roundabout answer and like, I might have money, but I'm not sure. Or like I would tell, if I'm not sure, I usually like, all right, well, check back with me. Although I am saying to reach out to faculty from starting like May, I might, if I don't know if I have funding, I would say check back with me in September or October, and then I might have a better answer. So don't get discouraged if someone's saying that. They just really want to be totally honest with you about what they have and don't have. Any other quick questions we can answer while we're here?
And just a word of encouragement too is that, this career journey it's nonlinear. It is something that is gonna have a lot of twists and turns. And so that's why that exploration part is so important. And we encourage you to kind of like lean into that. And the save the date for the follow-up event on November 20th. This will be in person at SPH at school. So you need to register and bring your student ID for that. And Professor Fleary will be joined by some other of her colleagues to kind of share
Yes.
additional tips and advice with you as you're further along in the process.
We'll bring those questions we had, that long list of questions we got. So when you register, if you have a question, add to it. We're gonna try to, we'll use the questions to kind of organize the event.
Yeah, so as you can see, these events are crafted around your feedback and your input. So please share. So I dropped the link in the chat. So if you'll take some time to fill that out, that'll be really helpful. And just a preview on other events that we have coming up this semester, more workshops on understanding the company culture. As I mentioned, those career exploration and assessments, also topics like workplace stress management, building meaningful connections with faculty, the interview process, social media, that professional pitch. So these are just some of the preview of what's coming up, save the date, tons of resources for you all to take advantage of. And so we hope that this has been helpful to you, and we'd love to hear from you. And if, as you're heading out, one of our traditions is like a one-word checkout. So as you're heading out, if you want to just drop in the chat, how are you feeling now as you leaving the Zoom room after investing this hour of time with us? That'll be great to hear. And I'll stay on for another 10 minutes if there are any other questions from the crowd. Professor Fleary, you're welcome to stay on. I know that you've got another event that you're running off to, but I'll be here for the students and can pass along any information to Professor. But if there are any final questions or final advice or tips, Professor Fleary, give this time back to you.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot to talk about, and yeah, just don't be afraid to reach out to your faculty advisors. I'll tell you, we complain all the time that no one reaches out to us. We only see you all at just before graduation when you need that form signed. So like, use your faculty advisors. That's what your faculty advisor is supposed to help you with your career planning as well. So use that resource. And maybe they may not be in the exact topic area that you're interested in, but they could point you in the direction that makes sense for what you want to do.
And we're actually having a workshop this week, later this week. It's a treat and not a trick. And this Thursday on building meaningful connections with faculty. So if that's something that you want to follow up on, come join that or schedule a career coaching appointment. So with that, just want to give a big thanks again to Professor Fleary, just for her championing this topic and having that follow-up that's going to come up next month. So save the date, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.